Well, as you know, not every restoration project starts its life with a car as clean as our Hemi Challenger. This is a 1964 Belvedere. Now, it's a max wedge car. I dare say that if all Legendary Motor Car had would be the number plate, they'd want to start this restoration project just because of the value of the end product. Well, there's a lot of different ways to go with body panels, and I can't think of a better guy than Keith Sim from Legendary Motor Car to tell us about that. It's good to have you back on the show.
Thanks, Tom.
Things going okay?
Yeah, we're busy.
Yeah, they certainly are. Well, this Belvedere has got some serious problems with it. Let's start with the trunk pan. Where did you get this?
This trunk pan was available from one of our suppliers. It's a really nice aftermarket piece. Not all aftermarket pieces come out this pretty.
Well, now, would that be different from new old stock?
New old stock is fine if you can find it, Tom, but in a trunk pan like this, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a panel like that that's a new original stock pan.
Well, I dare say even back in 1964, there wasn't a whole lot of these trunk pads around. So you got this from the automotive aftermarket. How in the world would somebody in the aftermarket ever come up with a stamping like this?
These panels, normally they'll take a really good original car and they'll actually pour a mold over the trunk floor and pop it out.
Well, to a layman's eyes, this panel looks good enough to install right away. Is there anything that you would have to do to it to make it just right?
This panel is a really good panel. It'll probably fit right into the car, judging by the quality of the panel itself. It'll probably fit right into the car the way it is now. You know, Tom, not all aftermarket panels are as nice as that trunk floor.
No. This obviously is a panel, but I can't believe it's from the same supplier.
Same supplier, different manufacturer, Tom.
Oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, some manufacturers, they'll make a part that's close enough and it'll get you out of trouble, but they kind of lack a little in the detail, the way things actually should be. The lines aren't as crisp. Maybe the detail around the wiper is not quite as deep as it could be. It's a good starter panel, but it's maybe not as nice as it should be. Tom, this is a XK140 Jag, 1956 model.
I was kind of hoping you'd bring me here because Vince from Kansas City's got a question about an XK120. Pretty much same difference?
Basically the same car.
Well, what he's asking, evidently he's just starting a restoration, and he's asking about rust replacement panels for a Jag XK120.
There are some replacement panels available for the car. The basic straight forming pieces, just about anybody can make them. Mm-hmm. However, when you get into the more complicated panels, things like the vent area and the bottom of the fender and even the front fender, the way they curve, you get into some compound curves and some pretty complicated pieces. You're probably going to have to take it to somebody who knows what they're doing. It's going to be able to make the proper panel and make it fit and make it right. Well,
you know what you're doing. This looks pretty rough. Surely this is somebody else's work.
Yeah, someone else has been into this panel before. Typical old amateur restoration. They've welded a piece over top. You can see that they've welded part of it solid and then they've almost given up.
So this has been exposed in sandblasting. Now, what have you done to match up this panel?
Well, this panel, I made a small stamp so that we could reproduce the vent opening. And then I fabricated a panel that's going to fit right in place and get rid of all that repair panel that someone had done before. And again, we're going to match it all together nice and butt weld it together and make sure that the door fits and make sure that the vent opening fits properly and doesn't hit the paint.
Now, Keith, this is, although a fairly complicated panel, fairly straight. There's a bit of a curve down here. Have you got an example of something that would take in a compound curve?
Absolutely, Tom. Well, this car was hit pretty hard on the left front corner, Tom, and I guess when it got hit, it damaged the whole side, took the door out, ruined the vent.
Oh, my.
It made a mess of the fender.
Yet somebody wants to restore the car.
Well, someone had tried to repair the fender before. It's been fixed probably a couple of times. To repair it one more time, I think it's not really worth doing. It's more cost efficient to make a new piece for the fender and butt weld it into place.
And that's what you've done along here, all the way down this whole top of the fender. Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a nice compound curve, actually.
It sure is. Now, how do you actually affect a curve like this?
Well, this curve actually is done in two pieces. The front of the fender was formed with a block and English wheel, and then it's welded together at the front of the fender where this actually becomes a fairly straightforward bend. Mm-hmm. And you can mate the two together in the proper area and then metal finish it so that it looks right. So
the patch panel that you just showed us would have fit in here, but you actually had to do the whole thing.
That's correct.
Now the door looks wildly complicated to me. How do you do that?
Well, the door skin actually it is fairly complicated in the top area here, but basically from here down it's all straight forming. Where it got a little bit complicated was in the back here, where it starts to ducktail up towards the fender, and then the top edge of the door is actually curved as well. So this panel was all made, it's all aluminum, and it was all made in one piece, so it's all stretched in here and shrunk in the right places and formed over, just like the original panel was.
Well, Vince, I'll tell you what, you need to find somebody capable enough, like Keith, who can put that together for you, but I think I'm safe in saying that you're not going to find this type of work available on the aftermarket.
You can get a panel like this aftermarket, Tom, but again, it goes to fit and finish. You might not get the panel to fit the car exactly the way you want it. I felt more comfortable making the panel myself, and then I know for sure it's going to fit.
Easy for you to say, buddy. Well, Vince, I hope that's of some help to you. There are some available panels on the aftermarket, but you're going to need to get hooked up with somebody like Keith from Legendary Motorcar to get the job done right.